What is unethical as duck, but is extremely common practice in the business world. Hiring more part-time workers instead of giving hourly workers slightly more hours to avoid giving them benefits. My former boss did that and we eventually found out her Christmas bonus was based on how much she saved on wages, benefits, etc. This. Ever wonder why a store like Walmart will have 600 workers capped at 31 hours instead of 200 full-timers? Because benefits kick in at 32 hours a week. Edit. HMMMMMM3 I work for Walmart and it's awesome responses in under 5 minutes. After a few hours of none. Looks like Walmart PR just found this thread. Careful, deceptive wording. Up to 100 Mbps internet speeds means you get 5-6 Mbps. And up to 100 for a moment here and there. Made with 100% chicken simply means that real chicken was utilized as an ingredient at some point. It's like saying a bottle of wine is made with 100% organic cork. Sugar-free means less sugar per serving than the minimum we have to report. The top rated usually followed by the specific study that ranked it best. Did you know you can pay a company to perform a study for you that's guaranteed to determine you're the best? Fake promotions. There's a role you can apply for that doesn't have any extra pay or benefits. In which you do the same work as the role above that, which is higher paid, in the hopes that eventually you'll be the next in line to actually be given that next position. Except you won't. As long as it has a title. I'm jumping on that. And then applying for companies that have a job on par with the new title. A company having a business model that relies on charging fees for breaking its own rules without justification for them. Looking at you, Credit One has a late payment fee but refuses to add any kind of auto payment. In 2017. Takes 5 days to clear a normal payment. Pay 4 days before your bill is due? That's a late payment fee. Want your payment to clear earlier to avoid that fee? Pay an express payment fee. It's the same fee amount? Lordy. What a coincidence. Hire a batch of temps as temp to hire with the supposed idea being that you'll be offered a permanent position at the end of the temp period with satisfactory performance. Set performance standards that are borderline physically impossible to meet. After the end of the temp period. Be like, sorry guys. Can't hire you on because you didn't meet our performance standards. Hire a new batch of temps. A plastics company I tempied for did this at their injection molding plant. The whole complex was run with basically a skeleton crew of company workers admin with a constantly rotating batch of temps making up the bulk of the workforce. Getting a lot more common in my industry is hiring interns all the time. After their few months of training they get replaced by next batch. With the shortage of jobs and need for experience. Many people fresh out of college will happily work for free to gain experience. Nominal weights and measures that don't match actual weights and measures. My company sells by the each but each item has a nominal weight. We intentionally produce our product approximately 10% light to save raw material costs. That sounds illegal as duck. Comcast's pricing strategy where they raise the price an absurd amount from one month to the next and just hope customers aren't paying attention or too passive to complain. Called Comcast Friday to try and lower my bill. I tell them I don't want the phone. Any of the premium channels other than HBO. Give me regular internet instead of blast. And I don't need the DVR. They come back with packages that are $20 to $50 more than what I am currently paying. Let me get this straight. I drop STARZ, Showtime, Cinemax, phone line, go to a slower internet package, and give up the DVR box and I pay more? How does this make sense? Companies that stifle competition innovation by buying smaller companies just to stop what the smaller company is doing. Add to that companies who lobby the government in order to create barriers to entry. Consistently making salaried exempt employees work 10+ hours overtime a week in order to avoid hiring more staff. Textbooks. Ducking overpriced textbooks. Bonus points if the professor of the class is also the author. and the human body changes for the 10th year in a row? Suddenly math is completely different. 1 + 1 = chicken. Literally anything a corporation does that they can be fined for is taken into account as a business expense. If it's cheaper to pay an illegal dumping fine than it is to change the way they process waste, nothing will be done to stop the illegal dumping. Can confirm. My company didn't want to encrypt its computers and just paid a fine every year they didn't do it. Until the fine got astronomically huge. Then they rushed through encryption and killed like 200 computers, costing themselves about $1,000 per machine. I've learned businesses are not smart. They just set things up so that the circumstances are inconsequential when they make bad choices. Working when you are sick. I have heard stories of bosses forcing people to come in despite being extremely ill. Also, I just wish that it would be mandatory schedule length of at least 2 weeks if the hours are not the same every day. Mine changes weekly, and it's hard to plan anything. Ugh. I know what you mean about scheduling. I worked at a grocery store that gave you your schedule on Friday, and you'd have to wait to Friday to know if you work Saturday or not. Absolutely absurd. Making you pay more for printing your own damn tickets at home. StubHub, Ticketmaster, etc. Letting an employee go, easing them out instead of addressing a situation they brought up. Listen, we're gonna need you to go ahead and move your desk down to the basement. Rocketing the price of stuff and putting a sale. People give no ducks about your luggage or parcel. They get dropped, thrown around every day behind the closed door. Especially heavy items. I remember looking out the plane window at the luggage handlers. I do not recommend this. In Birmingham, us. They were dropping boxes, kicking things half-heartedly to push them in, acting like junior high kids given chores they don't want to do. Their orange vests hung shoddily from their shoulders as they shuffled around on the tarmac. Many hours later we arrived in Japan. The luggage handlers had white gloves. Seriously. Signaled each other in their transport cards. Signaled and stopped even when no one seemed near. Really took their jobs seriously. I don't suggest nothing ever gets lost in Japan, and I know Japan isn't perfect, but the difference was striking. In Australia, Subway claimed footlong was a trademark name, and not a suggestion of sizing, after many people pointed out their subs were well under a foot long. Using unpaid intern as worker. They have the exact same tasks as everyone else. They work the same hours. Even more because they think that if they work more they will be noticed and hired. They won't. And it's rare that their supervisor take the time to teach them anything. They have to figure out things by themselves. Of course most struggle, and it's used as an excuse to not hire them. That sound like slavery with extra steps. Posting a job announcement and conducting interviews for a job you already know who you're going to hire. Most HR departments have requirements that jobs are posted internally first and then posted externally for some number of days before the intended person can be offered the job. Paying invoices late. Especially big companies that pay a few months late. It kills small business, and seems to be quite normal here in the UK. Wage theft trumps all other forms of theft in the USA, yet is hardly ever enforced. It steals $8.8 billion from lower wage workers a year. I would hope it goes without saying theft from your workers is unethical. Many years ago, I worked an hourly job at a not quite fast food restaurant. A few years after I quit, I heard from a former co-worker that he had discovered that the manager was not reporting all of our time. He found out because he began to copy his time card and compared it to his actual paycheck. He found that she was not reporting paying him about 5 hours a week. He sued and found out that he wasn't the only one she was doing this to. Of course, I found out after the business went under. Using a previous salary against you. Oh, you make $40,000? Well, we'll offer you $50,000. That's a 25% increase in pay. Your salary shouldn't be relative. It should be what the market value of the position is. If a job pays $75,000, don't pay me only $50,000 because I only currently make $40,000. Cutting people's hours just enough to not be considered full-time so they don't have to give you benefits. Those bosses are true pieces of shit and I happen to know a few of them. It's shady to give dedicated, long-term employees a measly 2-3% annual raise, if any at all, while hiring less experienced people for the same, or higher, salary than the experienced employee. It essentially punishes loyal employees. And they wonder why the recent generations tend to company hop more. No loyalty from the company? Don't expect any from the employees. Government contracting. Building a thing to specs but not entirely up to full functionality. Knowing the issues that will arise. Doing nothing about it. And then make the government cut a whole different, and very profitable, contract to fix said problems. I do a lot of federal contracts. A lot of the waste here is because procurement officers don't know WTF they are talking about. I have tried endlessly to get specs right, more cost effective, more geared towards the application, to no avail. In my experience, the people working for the feds don't give a shit if it's right. Some degree of false advertising. My food never looks like it does on the menu. My internet is never as fast as advertised. The contractor never finishes when he says he will. Selling customer data. If you're providing a free service, I can't fault you for selling my data. But if I'm paying for your goddamn internet, then duck you for selling my data. Comcast. Double dipping assholes. Unpaid internships. It's a great opportunity to learn. Learn what? The meaning of slavery? You work like someone that is hired, but for a shorter period. They don't bother to teach you anything cause you'll pick up as you go. Even better when you don't even work in the area you wanted to get the internship. Hey, you studying the law, right? I have a great opportunity for you to work as my secretary. Not including wage info in the job posting. At least post the range or minimum for the position. The salary is dependent on experience. Then they inflate the job requirements so they justify paying you less, since you don't have all the experience they want. Planned obsolescence. Doing a legal sheet to make $20 million, then getting caught and paying a $5 million fine. These kinds of fines should scale relative to how much you made doing the illegal thing. Student loans in the US, little to no approval process, they just give it. High interest rates. Refuse to settle. Can't be discharged in bankruptcy. They follow people well into their 40s. Limiting their buying power for houses, cars, other stuff. 17-18-year-olds have no idea what they are signing because we conveniently provide them no education on the process up until they have to decide whether to sign or not. Congress is immune to insider trading. Public school teacher here. My school has started to deduct vacation sick hours if teachers forget to swipe in. We're basically there all the time anyways and don't get paid overtime, so clocking in is pretty easy to forget. What ends up happening is teachers get their accumulated vac-sick hours deducted while actively teaching. All because of a forgotten swipe. The admin and district people didn't seem to see how absolutely unethical this practice is, and I never got back 4 days of vacay hours from missed swipes. Online stores advertise their products at attractively lower prices, but you will never really be able to get the product for that price because they will add extra charges somehow. No auto cancel on recurring payments. Companies could very easily add the feature but won't, hoping you forget and pay them more. I think PayPal has the ability to block a company from charging you if you don't want that service anymore. Useful for companies that purposefully make it a pain to cancel recurring payments. Refusing to pay overtime for overtime. I saw it happen all the time. I didn't complain. I got promoted a bunch. Car salesman. Almost no other product has someone who makes money selling you a product you already want. That the price for the product is negotiable. Some people can haggle a few thousand off the price while little old ladies get taken for as much as possible. And that there are laws requiring you to buy them through dealers instead of direct from the manufacturer if you know what you want. I used to work for an unnamed university that made this big deal about how they were gonna pay $15 an hour by a certain year. Well before the city wage was going to reach that high cost of living. Patting themselves on the back. Then there was the fine print. It was only for people hired to work 32 hours a week. So what they do was hire people to work one shift a semester. Then scheduled them to work 15-38 hours a week. Non-students could work more than 20. I was a non-student, but because the contract was only for 3 hours a semester. Also they didn't even pay the city's minimum wage for the first year I worked there. $2 under. And when it finally did go up they didn't pay me the same rate as the students. Who got the minimum wage raise? The 3 non-student workers had to fight for 2 months to get the same pay, and the same thing happened the next year. I finally just quit. Taking advantage of recent grads' bad market to take in people who will accept shitty conditions. Then kicking them out if when they complain and getting more new faces.